Hey, in today's video, we're going to talk about, in great detail, the actions of the right wrist and the right forearm. Now, the correct action of these two joints will not only give you much more power, but will also get you in good position at the top of the swing and help you with shallowing the shaft. If that's your issue, getting the shaft way too vertical on the way down, then it also assists you in that. So I've got some good exercises for you to do to kind of familiarize yourself with the action. I think when you get these two joints down, it might be the basis for you of jumping your swing light years ahead in quality. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I hope you get enough value out of this video that you're gonna go run down to the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with a friend who might need it, and leave a comment down below. All right, let's start with the basic anatomical motions that the right forearm and wrist have to do in order to get you going good with every club in your bag. Number one, we've got to remember a couple actions at the wrist. We're just going to remember, this is very simple, just extension and flexion, extension and flexion. Very easy. We're going to extend the wrist on the backswing, and we're going to flex the wrist through or snap the wrist through in a flapping, almost like you're going to slap somebody in the face, or you might be slamming a door. That's the action you're going to be using, number one. Number two, we're also going to have just a little bit of pronation and supination. Let's look at the supination here, assisted by the external rotation of the upper arm slightly. So notice this is happening from the shoulder down. Watch this, turning the radius and the ulna and the humerus bone together about 45 degrees, and then back up again, and then eventually over about 45 degrees. So you can do those two things, then you can make a really good backswing with these two joints. So now let's take a look from the down the line view here. I'll put the club just in my right hand. Now, I like the start of the swing being made with the center of mass radiating outwards to the fingertips, center out, how I like to trigger the swing. So I'll use all the big muscles to get the club handle to about my pocket or my hip. And then I'm going to start moving this wrist into extension steadily, steadily, steadily until I'm trying to get to approximately a 90-degree angle. So if you don't have enough flexibility in that wrist to really get a good wind up, you can always, this is what some basketball players do, is to stretch out the muscles of the forearm. Just by pulling gently down, you can really feel, yeah, you can stretch forearm muscles too. You can see I'm just increasing the amount, good for a jump shot, to get out to the three-point range and beyond like people are doing now. So we're looking for steady increase, increase, increase. Notice that I haven't done anything else with the forearm just yet. It's staying very neutral. Here, 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 here. Now I'm going to get to about here. I'm starting to kind of max out the wrist extension. But look, if I keep going, the club is pointing off to the left here. This is where we're going to use the pronation, assisted by a little bit at the shoulder, to round the club and point it at our intended line of flight, like this, just like that. So I've given it just a little twist. Now, you can over twist it. You can see that gets the elbow going a little bit up and away like that, and the club going across. It's a little bit of a daring maneuver, but it's worked to perfection by people like a Jack Nicklaus or a Fred Couples, even like a Matthew Wolf have done that, and they let this arm get a little bit in, they let the club get a little across the line. As long as you're doing it by just simply winding this forearm this way, then no problem at all, really, because you're just going to be putting back what you borrowed as you start down. So everything we're going to do in the backswing, we're simply going to undo in the downswing. So if I have the club and I've got the forearm wound like this, I'm going to return it or unwind it back to that original position. And then I'm going to be flapping the wrist through the ball. Eventually, you'll have no choice. The way the arms are structured, you'll flap through the ball to about here, with this forearm still pretty much straight up and down if it was in this angle, just flapping this way. But eventually the arm bones are going to have to go over in order to throw it over your shoulder. So complete the wrist flap or the flexion to about halfway through. That would look like this. And then let the forearm go about a quarter of a turn, well, that would be an eighth of a turn over, to let it dump over your shoulder and stay on the correct plane even all the way till the end. That's a plane angled something like about here. So actually pretty simple motion, and you can also use these things to troubleshoot. There's some people who they'll point it to the left because they failed to fully wind the forearm. That's going to be a loss of distance because this unwinding, and you can look at it like this. So you kind of start, look at this, about halfway back here. And the club's at this angle. Now watch if I bring this club just in front of me again. It's kind of at this angle. Now when I have it fully wound up to here, and I bring this back down in front of me, it's kind of vertical. So I haven't changed the wrist to the forearm. I've just kind of brought it back down in front of me again. So a great exercise you can do is just simply starting at about a 45, raising it to vertical, and then letting it drop to horizontal. So that would be a severe shallowing. There'd be plenty of shallowing. Let's add a little bit of forward bend and drive of the hips. You see that club is extremely shallow, way down on or even below my right forearm coming back into the ball. So it's as much as you would ever need. 45, that's in the halfway back position. Wind up the forearm to the top, and then wind it and let it drop this way. So that's a little bit of pronation in the forearm, a little bit of supination coming down, always being assisted by the rotation of this upper arm bone. So an enormous amount of power and accuracy is going to come from the unwinding and whipping of that right hand. So forearm is fully wound up, unwind it this way, and fling it at the same time. That act of unwinding really gets that club head starting in its whip action, really gets it whipping. As the handle starts to go around the circle and you're dropping the club back to that plane line or even a bit below it, so the club shaft might, or the handle might point a little bit beyond the ball at that point, if not at it, maybe a little beyond. And then you're really going to whip this thing through. So let's take a look at a swing, and then I'll show you this same action from another angle. All right, so we're going to wind up the forearm, unwind it, and sling it. All right, now looking at this unique angle, working back up the line, you watch as I take it back, start to flex, or I'm sorry, extend the right wrist, starts to max out about here, start to wind up the forearm to get the club pointing at my intended line of flight, in conjunction with the stepping down and starting the beginning of the downswing pivot. I'm going to let that forearm kind of drop back to originally where I had it, going halfway back, turn through, and watch this whipping action here. Notice that as I do this, the club face is going to stay nicely square to the arc, going from extension to flexion around the proper arc. Let's look at one from this angle, see if you can pick up those actions. All right, now from the face angle. Remember, only really two primary actions of the wrist and forearm. Going to have a extension, flexion, and we're going to have a little bit of this to finish up the backswing, a little bit of this to start the downswing. Winding and unwinding of the forearm as it comes whipping through. Let's check it out from this angle, see if you can pick that up. All right, and one more time from down the line. Remember, we are just a little bit of delay while the body starts to wind the big muscles up. The wrists start to get into the act as a response to that, starting to cock the club back into extension, increases. We start to wind the forearm up and then step down and let the forearm unwind, almost like letting the club fall to the ground, club head kind of fall to the ground a little bit in response to that pivot. And then come turning and fire that right hand, not twisting, but flapping, keeping the face square to the arc. See if we can look at this in slow motion, look for the signs of that. Another good ball. Now, if you can remember that it's really only those two basic actions. Of course, there's more actions when you start to include the upper arm, how it's got to be kind of working up away from your side, but just considering those two joints, just the forearm and the wrist, that's about all you've got to do. So do those exercises to familiarize yourself with the way we want the right wrist and forearm to work. Yes, there's an elbow and a shoulder in there too. We can get to it in another video, but this may solve a lot of problems that you might have if you're struggling with distance and or accuracy off the tee. Give these two ideas a try. See if you don't get a little bit more out of your drives coming up soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching and supporting my channel all this time. Check out my website, hititlonger.com, for over 100 more great videos and articles that are going to help you improve your golf game. I'm Steve. As usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.